Welcome to this predicted paper from onmaths that is based on the advanced information given to us by the exam boards. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. Onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. Enjoy! For us to create the smallest number, we need to pick the smallest digits at the start of the number. So the smallest digit is 3, then the next smallest digit is 4, next smallest digit is 5, then the next smallest digit is 8. But it wants it to be an odd number, and this is an even number. So we have to move that 8 forward one and have that 5 at the end. So the smallest odd number is 3,485. So we need to first of all understand what a cube number is. So a cube number is the answer to when you get 3 integers or whole numbers and we multiply them by themselves 3 times. So 1 times 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, 4 times 4 times 4 is 64, and 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. So 1, 8, 27, 64, 125 are all cube numbers, and it goes on forever. And this question's asked us to find all the odd or an odd cube number that is smaller than 100. So it has to be odd, so that gets rid of the 8 and the 64, and it has to be smaller than 100, so that gets rid of the 125. So I can either write down 1 would be a fine answer, or 27. I'm going to go for 1. The key says that a circle represents 8 DVDs, but if we cut this into 4, each quarter represents 2. So we're looking to see how many DVDs were sold on Wednesday. So that would be 8 for this one, and then it's 2 per quarter. So 8 plus 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12, plus 2 is 14. So the answer is going to be 14. So for shop A, they're selling the rulers in lots of 3. And so we just need to get our 60 and divide it by 3 to figure out how many lots of 3 we have. So we've got 20. So if one bundle of rulers costs £1.50, then 20 times £1.50 would be £30. So in total it would cost £30 at shop A. We're going to do the same for shop B. Their bundles are 5 rulers, so we're going to do 60 divided by 5, which is 12. So we're going to buy 12 bundles at £2 each, and that will be £24. So the cheapest price is at shop B at £24. This question's all about like terms. So what we can do is we can add this 10U with this 11U to make 21U. We can also add this 6V with this plus 4V to make 10V. We can also add this 10W to this minus 6W. So 10 take away 6 is 4W, so plus 4W. But we can't add a U term to a V term to a W term. So we have to just leave them be. So our answer is 21U plus 10V plus 4W. But we can multiply them, we just can't add or subtract them. So we're going to start off by working out what 100% of 120 is. Well, that's obviously just going to be 120. And we're trying to get to 6%. So we always start off by working out 10%. It's always normally useful. And we just divide that 120 by 10, so we get 12. And we try to get 6%, so it'd be nice if I knew 5%. And 5% is nice and easy because we just halve that 10%. So that'd be 6. And if we got the 1% as well, we can get to the 6%. So to find out what 1% is, we just divide the 10% by 10 and get 1.2. So to get the 6%, we're going to add the 5% and the 1%. So we're going to add the 6 and the 1.2. And so we just do 6 plus 1.2, which is just going to be 7.2. And that's our answer. A comparative bar chart is where you have two bars next to each other meaning different things. So it's probably easier just to start drawing it, and then we can talk about it as we go along. So we've got males here at 12. And so what we want to do is a bar that is 12 high. And these are going up in twos. So it will be up here. There we go. And then right next to it, we're going to do females, which is 14. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make this go up to 14. And there we go. Now, we need to be able to tell these apart. So what I'm going to do is just shade in the females. And we should do a little key. And we say that if they're not shaded, it's males. And if they're shaded, that is females. Okay, let's carry on with the bar chart. So it's 14 and 6. So notice I've got gaps between the pairs. So we've got 14 and 6, which will be down here. And again, we're just going to shade in the females. And then finally, we've got 8 and 16. So 8 would be here, and 16 would be up here. And finally, obviously, we're going to shade in the females. If we write in how many sides each shape has, triangle has 3, quadrilateral 4, pentagon 5, hexagon 6, you'll notice the number of vertices is twice the amount of each of them. So if a shape has 15 sides, we just times that by 2 and it will have 30 vertices. The first thing we need to work out is the fraction that Sarah will receive. Well, if Jane receives 9 over 10, then that just leaves how much of the numerator to match the denominator. So 9 plus 1 is 10, so it leaves 1/10 left for Sarah to have. And the reason that works is that the total amount needs to add up to 1, and 9 over 10 plus 1 over 10 is 10 over 10, which is just 1. So next we need to find out what 1/10 of 60 is. So we know that we divide by the bottom and times by the top. So 60 divided by 10 is 6, and then 6 times 1 is just still 6. So our answer will be £6. Whenever we multiply two negatives, we always get a positive, so we know our answer will be positive. We're going to do 9 times 12, which is going to be 108, and v times v, which is going to be v squared. I'm going to start by writing out all the outcomes. So I'm going to start with trout. So for trout, as a main, I could have had biscuits for dessert. Trout as a main, I could have had cheesecake for dessert. Trout as a main, I could have pancakes as a dessert. Then I'm going to move on to a curry for main. So for curry for main, I could have had biscuits, could have had cheesecake, and I could have had pancakes. Now, to work out the probability, it's the amount of successful outcomes over the total amount of outcomes. So successful for this is a curry and pancakes. So curry and pancakes is a successful outcome, so it's just 1. The total amount are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the chance of me picking at random a curry and pancakes is 1 over 6. The easiest way to compare fractions, decimals and percentages is to convert them all into decimals. So I'm just going to convert this percentage to a decimal, and to do that you just divide by 100. And I'm going to convert this fraction by timesing top and bottom by 10, and we know that 4/10 is 0.4. Then I'm just going to put all of these numbers in a place value grid, place value table, and we've got units, we've got tenths, we've got hundredths. Shouldn't need any more than that. So we've got 0.4, 0.43 and 0.27. Now what we do is we start on the left hand side and we find the smallest because we're looking for it in ascending order. And the smallest tenth is the 2 there, so it's 0.27. So this is our smallest number, 0.27. Now the next two are equal, so we look at the hundredths, and this technically has a 0 there, so 0 is the next smallest. Now 0.40 was 2/5, so make sure you have the original fraction in and not 0.4. And then the largest one is the 0.43, which was 43%. So the first thing we're going to do is write this as a ratio between the fractions. So we're going to have green to black. Now it says that a quarter of the counters are black, and therefore the remaining counters will be green. So if a quarter are black, that leaves 3/4 to be green. And what we can do here is on both sides of the ratio, what I'm going to do is just times it by 4. So I'm just going to times 4 both sides. So 3 divided by 4 times 4, because over 4 just means divided by 4. So 3 divided by 4 times by 4 just gets rid of the fraction. And 1 divided by 4 times 4 is just going to be 1. Now this might surprise some people because they will probably think it's a ratio of 4 to 1. But we can show here that it's a ratio of 3 to 1. A plan is a view that you would get if you were on top of the shape. So you were in an airplane or something looking down on the shape. So the sides of this that we'll see, well, we'd see this bit here and we would see this bit here. So I'm going to start off with the first bit I shaded, and we've got to figure out what the different lengths will be. Well, this would be 2 centimeters across, and the whole thing is 8 centimeters. The bit we don't want is 3 centimeters, so this part here will be 5. It would look like it was 5 wide. So let's draw that on, and so we've got 2 centimeters down, and we've got 5 across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is what it would look like from above. Now the other part will be same 2 centimeters, but it will be 3 centimeters across. So we have 3 centimeters across. Now whenever you have a join or a change in elevation, you need to show that with a line across, and so this will be our completed answer. A side elevation is the view you'd get if you were standing at the side of a shape. So I'm standing here and it's the view I'll get. Well, it would be this trapezium here. And to know which side is the side and which one's the front, well, the front is always going to be labelled. They do normally label the sides as well for you. So we're going to draw this trapezium. So the top bit is 3, then it's 6, then it's 8. So I'm just going to start off with the bottom actually, that might be easier, and draw the 8 across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then I'm going to do the 6 up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like I left just enough room. Then I'm going to do the 3 across. 1, 2, 3. And then all I need to do is just join up the start and the finish to complete the trapezium. So a stem leaf diagram is just a way of showing raw data. This 1 here could either mean 10 or it could mean 1. In this case we're using it to represent a 1, because if you look at the data they're all either 1 point something, 2 point something, 3 point something or 4 point something. So looking at the 1 point somethings, we've got a 1.1 there and we've got a 1.4. Looking at the 2 points, we've got a 2.1, 2.3, 2.4 and 2.8. Looking at the 3s, we've got 3.8, and looking at 4s, we've got 4.2, 4.4 and 4.7. And so in our key here we're just going to pick this number here. It doesn't actually matter which number we pick. And we say 1 line 1 means 1.1 centimeters. So trying to describe the single transformation, it kind of looks like it could be a rotation, and it would be a rotation of 180 degrees. But if it was a rotation, it would be actually this way around. And so it's not a rotation. It looks to me like it's a reflection, which it is. Now we've got to find out where we put our mirror line. And our mirror line for this would be a horizontal line. So if I just guess and I put it down here, notice that B is only one jump away from that, and yet A is 1, 2, 3 jumps away from that. So that's not very good. That's not the halfway point. So we need this to be the halfway between the two shapes, which is going to be here. And the name of that line, well, everywhere along that line, y is equal to -1. So we call it the y equals -1 line. So it's going to be a reflection across line y equals -1. Let's rewrite this expression, but with a time sign in. So v times w squared. Now w squared just means times by itself, so we can rewrite that as v times w times w. Okay, so we know v is -10, so -10. And we know w is -4, so it's times -4 times -4. Okay, so when you multiply, it doesn't matter which order we do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do these ones first, and I'm going to ignore that times -4 at the end. So -10 times -4, that's a minus times a minus, which is a positive, 10 times 4, which is 40, times -4. Now we're going to do 40 times -4, so it's a positive times a negative, so that's going to be a negative. And 40 times 4, well, 4 times 4 is 16, so 40 times 4 is 160. So it's going to be -160. So we've got to first of all work out how many parts there are altogether. So we're told that the ratio of red, yellow and green is 3 to 2 to 4. So to work out how many parts there are altogether, we do 3 plus 2 plus 4, which is 9 parts. So there's 9 equal piles of sweets. Okay, but to work out what one part or one pile of sweets is worth, we're going to get the 99 sweets and divide it by the amount of piles, and that's going to be 11. So one part is worth 11 sweets. We're asked to find out how many yellow sweets, and yellow is the middle one, so it's going to be the 2. So yellow has 2 piles of 11 sweets. 2 times 11 is going to be 22, so it's going to be 22 sweets. So we start off by working out what 100% of 240 is. Well, that's obviously going to be 240. And a nice easy one to start off with is 10%. And we're trying to get to 21%, so 10% is always a good one to start with. So we divide by 10, which would be 24. And because we try to get to 21%, we'll need to find out what 1% is. And 1%, we just divide the 10% by 10 again, so it'd be 2.4. And then we need to find out what 20% is. And 20%, we just double the 10%, so it'd be 48. And so 21% is this plus this, because 1 plus 20 is 21. So we add these together, so 2.4 plus 48. Probably don't need to do this formally. Probably do this in our heads. So 50.4, but it says to increase 240 by that amount. So we need to get 240, and we need to add the 50.4. Probably, again, don't need to show the working out for this. We can do this in our heads, but it's a bit easier to see what we're doing. So the answer would be 290.4. So for this question, we need to understand that the units we currently have are in meters per second, and the units we want to get them to or convert them to are kilometers per hour. Now, to convert the meters part is quite easy, because all we need to do is divide by 1,000. And when you divide the top of a fraction by 1,000, all you do is you just divide the whole thing by 1,000. So we're just going to divide the whole thing by 1,000. So we've got 95, and we're going to divide the whole thing by 1,000, so we get 0.095, and that's going to be kilometers per second, because we haven't dealt with the seconds yet. So that's the easy part. The more difficult part is converting the seconds to hours. So to convert seconds to hours, we divide by 60 and then divide by 60. So we divide it by 360. Seems simple enough. But the seconds are at the bottom of a fraction, and when you divide the bottom of a fraction by something, you actually times the whole fraction by that thing. So we're going to times the whole fraction by 360. And so we do 0.095 times 360, and you get the answer of 342 kilometers per hour. So our answer is 342 kilometers per hour. There's an awful lot going on in this question. Whenever there's an awful lot going on, it's always best to draw a diagram. So we're going to start off at Chiltern, which is a C. Then we go to Bolko, that's where we're going. And we go through Devley on the way. So we'll do D there. Distance from Chiltern to Devley is 34 miles. Distance from Devley to Bovlow is 16 miles. So I'm just reading through the question, adding it to my diagram. David leaves Chiltern at 9 o'clock. He drives from Chiltern to Devley an average speed of 68 miles per hour. And what speed does David travel between Devley and Bolko to arrive at 9:45? So the whole duration of this, the whole thing needs to be 45 minutes or 0.75 hours. And the entire distance is 34 plus 16, so that would be 50 miles. Okay, now having a look at this, we need to find out what time David was at Devley. So we're going to use our speed, distance, time triangle. So speed equals distance over time. And we're covering up the time, because that's the one we want. So it's going to be time equals distance, which is 34, over speed, which is 68. So we're going to do 34 divided by 68, which is 0.5. So it would be 0.5 hours. So that would be half an hour. So we will be at Devley at 9:30. So that means we've got 15 minutes left. Okay, so we've got 15 minutes to travel the 16 miles. So this time we're looking for the speed. Okay, so it would be speed equals the distance, which is 16 miles, over time, which is 15 minutes, but we need that in hours, so that would be 0.25 hours. And so what we can do here is times top 1 by 4 to get rid of the fraction. So it becomes 64 over 1, or just 64 miles per hour. So our answer is 64 miles per hour. To draw a quadratic graph, we want to find as many values as we can. Because it's a curve, with a straight line graph you only need 3 points. With a curve you need as many as you can get. And now we're actually given a table here to fill out. And so I'm going to start off with a 0 here. And here we want to substitute in the x equals 0 into our equation. So we've got y equals x squared plus 11. So it's y equals 0 squared plus 11. 0 squared is just 0, plus 11 is going to be 11. We're going to do the same for 1. So y equals 1 squared plus 11. 1 squared is just 1. 1 plus 11 is 12. Same again for 2. 2 squared plus 11. 2 squared is 4. 4 plus 11 is 15. Now the minuses are a little bit more difficult, but not that much difficult, because when you square a negative, you actually get a positive. So minus 1 squared is just 1. 1 plus 11 is 12. And then minus 2 squared plus 11. Minus 2 squared is 4. 4 plus 11 is just 15. Now you can see here we get a nice little symmetry. And we're going to plot this onto our graph here. So 11 is going to be here. 12 is going to be here. So both of these are 12. And 15 is going to be here. Now when you join them up, what you want to do is avoid having a V. Okay, in the mark scheme specifically, it says that the bottom needs to be nice and smooth, and avoid something called feathering where it looks like that. You just want one smooth line. Now the best way I find of doing it is turn the page sideways, which I can't do with mine, but you can turn your page sideways and just one smooth line. And we're going to do a nice smooth bottom there. And I just need to lift, try not to lift with yours. And that should be good enough for full marks. Let's just try it again. Just have a bit more of a lift like that. That's also good, and I can do this all day. Like the ones that are bad are the ones with gaps, or the ones where they miss points. So if you had yours like this, where it just missed that point out, or something like that, that would not give you the mark. You just want one nice smooth. Just slip there a little bit. Nice smooth, and that probably wouldn't, because you can see that I've kind of hesitated there. So it just takes practice, and as I said, if you turn the page sideways, it's a lot easier to draw a C than a U. The important thing to realise in this question is that we know a female has been selected, so we can just basically get rid of all of this part of the frequency tree, because it's not relevant, because we know a female has been selected. So there's 29 females altogether, and we're looking for the probability that the female chosen at random picked action. So it's just simply 16 over 29. There are a few different ways of finding out product of prime factors. I prefer using the bubble technique. So we just write the number out and we put a bubble around it, and we split that number into two numbers. So we find two numbers that multiply together to make that number. Now, I always pick the smallest that I can on the left-hand side. Now, the smallest I can think of is 2. And so 2 times 22 is 44. And now we think about 22, and that's 2 times 11. Now you might be thinking, why have I put the 2's in red? The reason why I've put them in red is they are prime numbers. We can't do another thing for the 2. Well, we can, it would be 2 and 1, but we'd be there all day doing 2's and 1's off the 2's. So we leave it as they are, and 11 actually is a prime number itself. So if I'm going to keep up with the theme, I can have that in red as well. Now, notice it says product of prime factors. So the prime factors are 2, 2 and 11. But the word product means times. So it's 2 times 2 times 11. Notice they're in ascending order. So it's 2 times 2 times 11. Now, if we were asked to do it in index form, we would write it as 2 squared times 11. So in this question, we basically need to add the 2 3/4 and the 2 2/5. So we're going to do 2 3/4 plus 2 2/5. Now, if I just rewrite this, 2 3/4 can be written as 2 plus 3/4 plus 2 plus 2 1/5, or 2/5. So we can add the two 2's together to make 4. and then all we need to do is add the 3/4 and the 2/5. So when you add two numbers with different denominators, what we need to do is get the common denominators. And we do that by just quickly writing out the 4 and the 5 times table and seeing what the first number in both their times tables is. 16, 20, and 5, 10, 15, 20. So that's 20. So we need to get the bottoms of the fractions to 20. Now for 3/4, to get the bottom to equal 20, we need to times the 4 by 5. And whatever you do to the bottom, you've got to do to the top, so times that by 5 as well, which will be 15. And for 2/5, we'll get that bottom to 20, so we times that by 4. And so we've got to times the top by 4 as well, to make it 8. So it's going to be 15 over 20 plus 8 over 20. So we need to add the numerators. So it would be 15 plus 8, which is going to be 23 over 20. Now that is a top-heavy fraction, so we can rewrite that as 1 and 3/20. And we can add the 4 and the 1 together to make 5 and 3/20. So the answer is 5 and 3/20. So we're going to write an expression for the amount of people on the first bus. So they've started with X passengers and they've gone to 11 bus stops with X passengers. So altogether that is 12X. So we're going to have the first bus. And so we've got 12X. And then on the last bus stop, 19 passengers get on. So plus 19. Now for the second bus, well, we start with X and a further 5X come on, because 5 bus stops with X passengers, so that's 6X altogether. And then 79 get on. And it says the first bus finishes with less passengers than the first. So the first bus finishes with less. And the way we show that is with this inequality here. Now all we need to do is solve that inequality. And we've got X on both sides, so we look at the X's. We've got 12X and 6X, so we always take away the smaller amount. So we're going to take away the 6X both sides. And next thing we're going to do is take away the 19 from both sides. And so, meant to be 60. Got ahead of myself. And the last thing we do is divide by 6 both sides. And so we've got X is less than 10. Now, it says here, assuming no passengers got off either bus, what is the largest value for X? Now, it is tempting to write down 10, but it says X has to be less than 10. So the biggest number we can get that is less than 10 is 9. So when we say y is directly proportional to x, what we mean is whenever x doubles, y will double. Whenever x halves, y will halve. Now, we've got this proportionality sign here. And to make that an equals, all we need to do is introduce a k constant to the right-hand side. So it's y equals something times x. Now, to find out what that something is, to find out what that constant is, what we're going to do is feed in the value of y and the value of x that we have. So we're going to feed those in. So y is 55.3 and x is 7. So it would be 7k. And we're just going to put our lines in and solve this. So it's going to be divide by 7 both sides. And 55.3 divided by 7 is 7.9. And that's what k is. So we're going to rewrite this equation here, this formula here. Y equals 7.9x, and that is actually our answer. When we estimate, we normally round to one significant figure. So what I'm going to do is just rewrite this question, but rounding everything to one significant figure. But I'm just going to miss out this square root for now. So 3.3 will just be 3, and 4.7 would just be 5. Now, the problem with this 27 is square rooting 27 is difficult, especially without a calculator, and estimating should be done without a calculator. But if I round it to the nearest significant figure, if I round it to one significant figure, that will make it 30. Now 30 is no easier to work out. So square numbers are a bit of an exception. When you've got square root, it's a bit of an exception. You've got to find it to the nearest square number. So 27 to the nearest square number is 25. So square root of 25 is 5. And then 5 take away 3 is 2, times 5 is going to be 10. So our answer is 10. So let's write these numbers out. And the first thing to do is work out what the numbers are going up by. So they're going up by -3, because they're minusing 3 each time. So we know that the number before the n is going to be -3. So whatever they go up in is the number before the n. Then what we do is we go backwards to find the 0th term. So actually going backwards, we would add 3 and we would find it to be 20. So whatever numbers our 0th term, because 17 is our first term, is going to be what we add to the -3n. So it's going to be add 20. So our answer is -3n plus 20. To work out the mass, we will need to find the density and the volume. Density is given to us in the question, but volume isn't. So we need to work out what the volume of this cuboid is. So the volume is just the 33 times the 7 times the 22. So that would be 5,082. And that would be centimeters cubed. And we need to write down the formula for density. So density is the mass divided by the volume. So rearrange this to get mass on its own, because that's the thing we're looking for. So mass equals density times volume. Density is given to us in the question as 2.1 grams per centimeters cubed. Times that by the 5,082 for the volume, and we get the answer of 10,672. And then that will give us grams, because our density is in grams, so that is grams, but the answer is asking for kilograms. So to convert that to kilograms, we just divide by 1,000 and we get 10.672. Then we need to round that to 2 decimal places, and so that would be 10.67 kilograms. We can keep this as an interior angle, but it's actually sometimes easier to convert it to an exterior angle. And what you might know is that the sum of interior and exterior angles is going to be 180, because they will always form a straight line. So to find the exterior angle, all we need to do is 180 take away the 170, and that means it will be 10 degrees. So we've already done a different formula for exterior angle, which is 360 divided by n. And something we can do is we can just swap these two things around. And so we can make the formula that n equals 360 divided by the exterior angle. So 360 divided by the exterior angle, well, we know that the exterior angle is 10, therefore n is 360 divided by 10, which would be 36. There are a few different ways you could answer this question. I'm going to do it with a tree diagram, but you didn't need to draw a tree diagram to answer this question. So we've got our first tree, which is our first bus, and the choices are male and female. And we've got our second kind of branch, I suppose, and it's still male and female. and this is our second bus. So the property of male on a first bus is 9/15, and therefore the property of female is 1 minus 9/15, which would be 6/15. Male on the second bus is 7/15, and so female would be 8/15, because they need to add up to 1. And it's independent, so these will be the same. And the question is basically asking what is the probability that both will be female. So to have both female, we need to have gone down this line at the start and then this line again. Okay, so looking at the fractions along the way, it's 6/15 and 8/15. The word "and" in probability means times. So whenever you're finding the probability of getting to an outcome, so this outcome will be FF, because they're both female, you are multiplying the fractions that you go across. So it would be 6/15 times 8/15. So 6 times 8 is 48, and times the bottoms, 15 times 15 is 225. Now you can actually cancel that down. So what you can do is you can divide top and bottom by 4, and that will give you 16. Is it 4? No, you can divide top and bottom by 3, and that would be 16/75. So either 48/225 or 16/75. So we're told the length of this rectangle is u, and the width is u plus 2. Doesn't matter which way around we do it. And we're told the area is 80. So we can actually write an equation from this. So u times u plus 2, so that's the length times the width, is equal to the area, which is 80. So let's expand this. And what we're going to do is we're going to put everything to the same side. So all I'm going to do here is subtract 80 from both sides. And so we've got u squared plus 2u minus 80 equals 0. Now we're going to be using quadratics, so we're going to factorize this. And so we need two numbers that add together to make 2 and times together to make minus 80. So I'm going to put my brackets out. So we're going to have u at the start of the brackets, and let's have a think. So it's going to be 8 and 10, and one of them will be positive, one of them will be negative. Well, to add them together to make 2, the 10 will have to be positive, and then the 8 would have to be negative, and then minus 8 times 10 is minus 80. Okay, last thing is we get each of our equations equal to, each of our brackets equal to 0, so we can solve them. Let's just do this in normal colour. So u minus 8 equals 0, and let's solve that. And so we're going to add 8 both sides, and we've got u equals 8. And we're going to do the same for this right hand bracket, so u plus 10 equals 0. Get our lines in and take away 10 both sides, so u equals minus 10. Now it might get confusing because it says find the value of u, but a length needs to be positive, so this minus 10 is not the correct answer. Our correct answer will be 8. And we can actually check this, because if I fill in the value of 8, so we can have 8 at the top here, and 8 plus 2, which is 10. 8 times 10 is 80. So we know that we've got the right answer. We're going to start off by just writing the decimal in the standard form, which is 4.3. And we're going to look at the power. Now, if the power is positive, it means the standard form number is a really big number. If it's negative, it means it's a very small number. And here it's negative, so we know it's a small number. Now we're going to do the amount of jumps that it shows in the power. So it says a 5 there, so we're going to do 5 jumps. And because it's a small number, we're going to go to the left to make it a small number. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jumps. So the new decimal point is going to be here. All the jumps that we made, we're going to fill in with zeros. And because it's decimal, we're going to start it off with a 0. So our new number is, or our ordinary number is 0.00043. Now it's important to realise that we shouldn't really think about it as jumping the decimal point. We're actually shifting the number, but it's all relative and it's a lot quicker just to move that decimal point. When we multiply numbers, it doesn't actually matter which order we multiply them. So we can do 2 times 4 times 10 to the power of 8 times 10 to the power of 9. 2 times 4 is 8, and when we multiply two powers with the same base, we add the powers. That's going to be 10 to the power of 17. So our answer is 8 times 10 to the power of 17. So we can write this as a fraction, so it would be 2.84 times 10 to the power of 11 over 4 times 10 to the power of minus 2. What we can do is split this up into two fractions, so 2.84 over 4 times 10 to the power 11 over 10 to the power of 2, or minus 2. Okay, so we're going to start by doing 2.84 divided by 4. So we're going to just do the bus stop method, so 4 on the outside, and we've got 2.84 on the inside. 4's into 2 don't go, so carry the 2 across. 4's into 28 go 7, and 4's into 4 go 1. So it's going to be 0.71 times, and then the rules of indices say that if you divide two powers of the same base, they're both 10, then you just take away the power. So it's 11 take away minus 2. Now the two minuses, the two takeaways, actually convert to a plus, so it would be 11 plus 2, which would be 13, so it would be 10 to the power of 13. Now we've got a bit of a problem here because standard form must have a number between 1 and 10, and not including 10, at this position here, and this is obviously less than 1, so we need to convert this into standard form. So what we can do is just write the number out again. So I'm going to write this as an actual number, so it's 10 to the power of 13, so it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13. Fill in the zeros. So it would be 7, 1 and all those zeros. And then I'm going to put it back into standard form. Now the decimal point will need to be here to make it 7.1. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's going to be 7.1 times 10 to the power of 12. Now, with a bit of practice, you don't need to write out the whole number. You'll be able to just know that if you convert that into 7.1, then you just need to take away 1 from the power. But if you're not sure, and it's not an unreasonable number like 10 to the power of 105, then it's just worth sometimes just writing out the actual number and being 100% sure that you've got it the right way around. What I'm going to start off by doing is rearranging this equation so that it kind of matches this one. So I'm just going to write it down. And we want the n to be minus 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my rearranging lines in. And we're just going to add 10 to both sides. Now, we've already got this line drawn for us on this graph. And so all we need to do is draw this line. So we've got y equals 10x squared plus 8x minus 2 drawn for us. We just need to draw this line, which is y equals 10, and see where they cross over to find the solutions. So y equals 10 will be all the way up at the top. Let's just make sure I get it nice. There we are. I need to move that up a little bit. There we are. And let's read off the values that that gives us. So it comes down here and it comes down here. So the values it comes down to are minus 1.6 and 0.8, and those are our solutions. So to answer this question, you need to just know the answer off by heart. There is a diagram that can help us actually get there, and if we just draw a right angle triangle and put the lengths as 1, we've got right angle here, we can use Pythagoras, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, to work out the fact that this is going to be root 2. Because it's an isosceles triangle, this angle here is going to be 45 degrees, and same with the bottom right one, but we're not interested in that. When we label it with our marked angle here, we've got the adjacent is here and the hypotenuse is here. Now we know from trigonometry that cos x equals a over h. The angle is going to be cos 45, and a is going to be 1, and h is going to be root 2. Now this is a bit of a strange one with 1 over root 2, because we need to actually be able to rationalise the denominator. And basically what that means, if you haven't done surds yet or you aren't doing surds, is you times tom 1 by root 2. And so we end up with root 2 over 2. So if you ever see 1 over root 2 is absolutely fine as an answer, but if you ever see the answer as root 2 over 2, the two are actually exactly the same. So writing 1 over root 2 is fine, or writing root 2 over 2 is also correct. So we're going to first of all realise that this is a right angle triangle and we've got two lengths and an angle involved, therefore it's going to be trigonometry. So we're going to just label the sides first. The one opposite the right angle is the hypotenuse, opposite the marked angle is the opposite, and the one between the right angle and the marked angle is the adjacent. Now the adjacent doesn't have a number or a letter next to it, so it's not interesting, so get rid of that. Next we're going to do our trigonometry triangles. And so we've got SO, Ka, Toa. And we are just crossed out the adjacent, so we don't need this one and we don't need this one. And we're going to end up with SO, which is short for sine the angle equals opposite over hypotenuse. The angle is marked as x, so sine x equals root 3 over 2. You need to know from memory that sine 60 is root 3 over 2. And notice here that the x therefore is going to equal 60. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.